Children's and Household Tales. Collected by the Brothers Grimm. The Stolen Heller. This video is not intended to present an atmospheric narrative. Rather, it is created for those who seek to read the original stories as they were published in 1812, faithfully translated from German. An interpretation is provided at the end for deeper insight. A father sat at the table with his wife, his children, and a good friend who was visiting him for lunch. As they sat there and the clock struck 12, the stranger saw the door open, and a pale child dressed in snow-white clothing entered. It did not look around, said nothing, and went silently into the adjoining chamber. Shortly after, it returned and just as silently left again. On the second and third day, the same child came again. At that, the stranger asked the father who the beautiful child was that entered the chamber every noon. The father replied that he knew nothing about it, that he had never seen it. The next day, as the clock struck 12 and the child entered again, the stranger pointed it out to the father, but he saw nothing, nor did the mother or the children. The stranger stood up, went to the door, opened it slightly, and peeked inside. There he saw the pale child sitting on the floor, eagerly digging and scraping at the cracks in the wooden planks with its fingers. But as soon as the child noticed the stranger, it disappeared. The stranger then described what he had seen in detail, and the mother recognized the child and said, "Oh, that is my dear child, who died 4 weeks ago." They pried open the wooden planks and found 2 hellers, which the child had once been supposed to give to a poor man. However, it had thought, with that, I could buy myself a biscuit, and so it had kept the hellers and hidden them in the floorboards. Because of this, the child had found no peace in its grave and had to return every noon to search for the hellers. They then gave the money to a poor person, and after that, the child was never seen again. A possible interpretation considering the time period. The fairy tale The Stolen Heller conveys fundamental moral and religious concepts that were widespread in the early 19th century. Divine or supernatural justice ensures the purification of the soul. The child cannot find peace after death because it has incurred a moral debt. This reflects the prevailing belief that even minor sins have consequences and must be atoned for. Poverty and Christian charity as central values. The child was supposed to give the heller to a poor man but chose selfish gain instead. In an era where Christian compassion was considered a virtue, the tale teaches that neglecting social responsibilities has consequences even beyond death. The afterlife as a reflection of earthly deeds. The idea that a person cannot rest in death because of unresolved guilt was deeply embedded in the religious worldview of the time. The fairy tale conveys the notion that wrongdoing has consequences not only in this world but also in the afterlife. The symbolic meaning of money. The heller does not merely represent material value but also the moral weight of an action. The child chose short-term personal gain over a good deed and was punished with a restless existence. This could be understood as a warning against greed and selfishness, values that were negatively perceived in a Christian society. Conclusion. The fairy tale conveys a clear moral lesson about guilt, repentance, and restitution. It demonstrates that even small misdeeds do not go unpunished and that true peace can only be attained by making amends. This story aligns with the Christian worldview of the early 19th century, in which the idea of divine judgment and the necessity of purification were widely accepted. At the same time, it warns against placing material greed above moral duty, a message particularly relevant in a time of social inequality and religious moral instruction. What do you think? Was this just a bedtime story, or does it hide a deeper meaning? Do you have your own interpretation? Share your thoughts in the comments, I'd love to hear them. If you enjoyed this, consider subscribing for more stories and discussions. And if you have any constructive feedback, let me know, I'm always looking to improve.